Let's do this thing. San Antonio and RGV. Copa Tejas is coming up next. The USL is on ESPN. Scenic San Antonio and the Riverwalk is alight tonight as the USL Championship brings a national spotlight to the Alamo City once again. It's the reigning title holder, San Antonio and RGV right now. Welcome to the USL Championship on ESPN. Big Wednesday night fixture coming from the Lone Star State of Texas. A Copa Tejas game at Toyota Field tonight. San Antonio FC host Rio Grande Valley FC. The Western Conference standings show two teams in very different positions. Sacramento leads the way, a 2-point advantage, but San Antonio have the game in hand they'll play tonight. While RGV is 4 points away from El Paso, can make up 3/4 of the difference to get toward that last playoff spot here tonight. And with that, we say welcome into the booth, everybody, with Evan Kerr, Mike Watts on hand. And this San Antonio team playing at an unbelievable level yet again. And RGV just trying to get back to the postseason again, Dev. You get to the middle of August, it's time to start winning games, not drawing, if you want to be where you expect to be at the end of the season.
San Antonio, it's simple for them. They want to finish atop the West. They want the #1 overall seed heading into the playoffs, and they want their second star, do it in back-to-back fashion. But let's start with RGV and Wilmer Cabrera. They are an interesting case because they have to win, and they got to do it now. We saw their comeback last season where they went 7-2-2 in their final 11 games. Good news, they've gotten 6 results against teams currently above the playoff line. Bad news is they are currently below that line in this argument. So they're sitting on 28 points, -4 goal differential. Their coach, Wilmer Cabrera, feels like they have to get to 13 wins. But historically, you got to finish with 12, 47 points, and a +4 goal differential. So for argument's sake, you would need 6 wins in your final 11 and a +8 goal differential to get into that conversation.
They finished 6th in the Western Conference last year. Meanwhile, San Antonio rewrote the record books last year. Tani Oluwaseyi is new. Let's go ahead of the curve on why he's been special.
He's a very interesting prospect out of St. John's. Minnesota United drafts him. Only scored 20 goals in his collegiate career in 49 appearances. Well, he's got 14 this season, but how does he do it? Number 1, pace. Watch the explosion here. The first part of the argument is he occupies both center backs. The second is he gets them turned around and uses that agile frame to explode into the final third and beat the goalkeeper. Let's bring him a little bit deeper. Notice the anticipation this time around. The press comes from San Antonio, reads him like a book, touching behind one-on-one in a different fashion with the goalkeeper, same result. But the key takeaway about this kid is he wants to learn. Graduated St. John's in 3.5 years. Every time out wants to get better, especially in interplay. Great drop down into the pocket, ball into Justin Dillon, and they're off and running once again. He is scoring at a pace that is almost unprecedented in the USL Championship. But how good is it? Well, right now, for argument's sake, he's top 5. My key takeaways from this list right now, Mike. Notice, 3 out of 5 on the page right now all won the Golden Boot. I'll take it one step further. Dom Dwyer, Cameron Lancaster, Junior Flemings, all either won a title or had the opportunity to play for one.
All right, we're ready to go here in San Antonio, where the weather has a little bit of a fever. It's 101 outside, but they say it's a dry heat. Let's do this thing. San Antonio and RGV. Copa Tejas is coming up next. The USL is on ESPN. Select ball picked up by the pro referees, and here come the teams. San Antonio, Texas is the star holding side in the championship. San Antonio hosting RGV on this Wednesday night. Here's the lineup that Alan Marcina has put together. Maloney out injured, Tulu not in the 18, Manley and Gomez are in.
The Manley one is interesting because it's his 8th appearance, 7th start overall, but he's earned the spot. Alan Marcina, very critical of the guys on the back line in the best of ways, saying we don't really care what you did last game. How are you training? How are your performances overall? Manley steps in. Gomez is a big move here because even though Ishjom has been great on the left-hand side, Connor Maloney is the one who leads this team. And of course, Santiago Patino back on that front line. The terrible twos, as you call it, for San Antonio FC and the mentality monsters moving into the final third. A little bit different here for Wilma Cabrera and RGV. 8
You heard that right. Changes from last time out in a team that drew Louisville 2-2. They've done it all over the place. Here's what you need to know about this squad. It can be a back three. Cerro can rotate up into the midfield on his lonesome. They could drop into a four. Ritundale can come onto the back line. You got to find a way transitionally to exploit the space in behind or compress this field with options atop the 18 if you want to find success against San Antonio FC on the road.
Wilmer's made more changes game to game than he has at any point all season. His 5th total season at the helm for RGV. Copa Tejas on the line tonight. San Antonio cannot clinch, but they can be on the verge of the fan-created trophy. They can also go top of the West. We're underway in Texas. San Antonio hosting RGV. An enormous game for the Toros to try and get into the postseason picture. Enormous game for San Antonio to try and go top of the Western Conference. Alan Marcina leads this San Antonio team. And what heights they've reached under his tutelage. 77 points last year, the #1 overall seed, dominating their way to a title, including a 3-1 victory over Louisville City in the final. Mitchell Tainter was an MVP finalist last season to throw for SAFC. Off the head of Patino, who returns. Patino in, Pirano out, and where Pirano ended up is going to be quite the talking point around the championship this week.
You know that you're sitting in good fashion when all of a sudden you can let Christian Pirano out of your grasp approaching the final 10 matches of the season if you're San Antonio FC, and certainly if you're willing to send him to one of your Western Conference rivals, at least this season, atop the #1 and #2 positions in Sacramento Republic.
Ball bouncing into the penalty area. Patino trying to get there. He gets yanked, and it'll be scooped up by Derek. A goal kick here for RGV. Good to see Patino back, the all-time leading postseason scorer in San Antonio history. 5 last year, including a pair in the final.
It's really impressive, not just what he does, Mike, but to be fair, the overall scouting process in general. Alan Marcina and the entire front office always well aware of the options that are available around them, whether or not it's been someone who's applied their trade here, either recently or in the past. Going and get some of the best and brightest of the USL Championship from other squads, moving the scouting department even further along than that, all of which we've seen since he took over in 2020, make themselves to the Western Conference Final, atop the heap last year, and now looking to repeat. As mentioned in the open, only one team successfully has ever been able to repeat as USL Championship title holders. That was Louisville City in 17 and 18. Only 2 teams have 2 titles outside of Louisville. That would be Orlando City in the early teens prior to their departure from the league.
Ushered out by Gomez. The throw for Carter Manley. It was merely precautionary. He was held out of the New Mexico game. A 3-0 win at altitude. Goals from Zuhir in the 2nd and the 29th minute. Patino in his return scored in the 40th minute. That game in Albuquerque. Over from Ritondale, forward from Coronado. Pressure from RGV comes up short. Away from Jome. Washe off the mark. Golden Boot leader. 14 goals already, a San Antonio single season record, and he did it in 14 games, 3 separate hat tricks this year.
Of course he did, though, right? Because that's everything his background tells you there. Listen, if you're just joining us, Kenny Oluwaseyi, 49 appearances coming out of St. John's that saw him drafted by Minnesota United in the MLS Super Draft. Saw him acquired 20 goals and 10 assists, but the bulk of that was in his 2019 season where he had 11 and 5. Unfortunately picked up an injury that saw him miss 4+ months in the 2021 season. But a guy who's extremely intelligent, reads the game, coming on loan. It's not like he was even lighting it up in MLS Next Pro. Had 3 appearances overall for Loon's second team, just 1 goal and 1 assist, but it's different here. The way that this team plays in San Antonio, the way that they can explode one end to another, they're very direct, they're very physical. It fits his game quite impressively. And I asked Alan Marcina about it. I said, were you worried that if you didn't get him and you didn't get the goals, that it wasn't going to work for you because defensively it's different? And he said, no. And a type of arrogance that I respect so much. We were always going to get someone, even if it wasn't Tanny.
Very few teams in the championship have done as well ringing up the loan market as San Antonio typically has. And they've got another winner. Header out from Frank Nodarse into the lineup for the suspended Wahab Akwe. Second team All-League selection, who was sent off for contact at the neck of Amadou Dia late in stoppage time in Louisville. Cabrera said this is an opportunity for a number of guys here tonight. He didn't really allude to just how many. He didn't say 8 different starters would get opportunities tonight, but I think the point now in hindsight was pretty clear.
Appreciate that, by the way.
Oluwaseyi drives that out of play.
They remind me a little bit of Colorado Springs, who we just had for the summer showcase in RGV. And what I mean by that is they've shown us that they can compete with the best in the Western Conference.
How many results do they have against playoff teams?
So they have 9 against playoff teams, but that's when you double up. It's actually 6 individual teams. So you look at Louisville City in the East. That's a playoff team. Now, that was a draw. They took down El Paso Locomotive. Then they drew them. So that's when you start to get into the 9s. Drew Sack as well, but they beat Orange County. They beat Oakland. They beat Colorado Springs. I also look at the stylistic argument that those last 3 teams that I made, Oakland, Colorado Springs, even Sac, those are 3-back systems that can actually be quite aggressive in nature, which means they've seen what this could look like. Now, to be fair, the DNA of San Antonio a little bit different, but the blueprint could be there for them to go on the road and steal some points tonight.
Gomez trying to fly by Ritondale, who slowed him up. Gomez, the Trinidad and Tobago international, who's part of the Gold Cup squad this past summer. Gone that route again. Garcia. Forward from Manley. Asking questions. The ball nodded off target. Defensive header to keep Santiago Patino away from goal, and a corner for San Antonio.
The good news for them tonight is the rotation that you get out of San Antonio, and especially in the midfield now. Ishjom and Shannon Gomez, they're going to stay wide. They'll push the tempo, make you feel uncomfortable. But Rita Zuhir and Ja'Cory Hayes, what that looks like with Jorge Hernandez, that relationship. That's why I mentioned coming in. Could be a 4, could be a 3. You can run 3 up top or 2. Doesn't really matter.
Hernandez header smashed away. Gomez returns. Hernandez has 7 assists this year, 2nd in the league. That'll finish 10 rows up.
The most important thing tonight for RGV is to not get stretched. They have to find a way to stay together. Now, I don't expect them to be on the ball a ton. Don't necessarily think they need to in order to find success in this game, Mike. But they have to make sure they've compressed the field in one area or the other. If the game opens up and you allow San Antonio to start to play quickly through the different segments, that's where they get you.
Another throw for Manley. Hayes out from Gomez. And RGV finally can take a breath. We've just been told officially, Devin, that there will be a hydration break.
You're already thirsty?
Well, at 101.
Do you have an in-game beverage that you prefer?
I think that's payola, if I admit to it, but this is sparkling ice plus caffeine.
Yeah, we don't offend the sponsors.
Speaking to G. Guerreri, the 31st-year head coach at Texas A&M earlier today, he said after 15 straight days of heat above 105 in College Station, they finally got a break yesterday. They only hit 104. They open their season with Florida State tomorrow night. Rolled over by Kinsner. Stripped off Francois, Manley in tight quarters. Francois stuck his foot in. Mitchell Tainter. Knocked down by Patino. Kept away from Hernandez on the slide by Benitez, the Venezuelan left back in this system of three for RGV. A little bit of space here. Cole Frame making his championship debut on loan from North Carolina. Of course, if he had stuck around, North Carolina was going to go to the championship too. Francois slips it through. Chance off the crossbar and in. Ian Cerro. RGV with a shocking opening salvo. 1-0 on the road. That is his first goal in the USL Championship.
What did we say coming in, though? In order for them to steal points on the road tonight, they had to do it one of two ways. Wide open, transitional in behind, or as they moved up high, compress the field, get 30, 35 yards and in, and add layers to the attack. I said to Wilma Cabrera, said to you, if you can get into that space and all of a sudden horizontally start to provide options, that's where you can go and sting this defense. Notice the depth that they provide. Ball comes from the right flank to the left. As you come back across, Cerro just bides his time, idly waiting for this to be slipped back through. Marksman on the near post, and the lead 11 minutes into this match.
Had 4 goals last year at Chattanooga FC. Before that, he was at Chicago House. And what an opener for RGV. Their first real opportunity, and look at the numbers. They get at least a point out of every game this year in which they've scored first. All the while, San Antonio hasn't dropped a point, rather hasn't dropped all 3 points when scoring first since October of 2020. A 57 match span. That's made irrelevant here tonight. Forward from Garcia. Gomez, touched out by Jose Torres, former U.S. international, who's represented the U.S. at both the World Cup and the Gold Cup. Jorge Hernandez delivers, ball knocked down and swiped into the net. The response is instantaneous from San Antonio FC. Santiago Patino, 2 games back, 2 goals for San Antonio.
Last
1-1.
season, when they needed the dramatics, what they needed to do usually came from set-piece opportunities, Mike. A flare for sure. My question is he in an offside position? It's really close, I'll tell you what. Cole Frame at the bottom of your screen as he slips in behind. That touch right there, it looks like he just kept him on. Just steps right in front of the defender. The slide over by Riton Dale doesn't happen, can't put a body on him, and instead, playoff Patino shows up a bit early and gets his team back to equal.
How about this? Just returned on a multi-year deal to San Antonio. He was sold to a team in Brazil and re-entered the fray the last couple of weeks. Game on here in San Antonio. for whatever reason, because RGV hasn't historically been a big scoring team. San Antonio did a lot of 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 business last year. They always seem to score a bunch of goals against each other.
Mostly on the nils, to be fair. This was a team, San Antonio FC, that did not like to concede in any way, shape, or form in 2022. Set the single season record for shutouts. Jordan Farr in goal tied that argument. Unfortunately for him, he was not given credit when he was kind enough to pay homage to the club great Matt Cardoni. Departed a match early. They kept a clean sheet, but they didn't award him with a shutout. I got a bone to pick with the statisticians, by the way.
Have fun with that.
It's been 12 months, and I'm still angry.
Frame gets a how do you do from Hernandez. You saw that stat about San Antonio, most goals in the championship. They now have 12 in the opening quarter hour. It's most of any team in the league as well. Here's the foul. Just 20 years old, Dev. One thing Wilmer Cabrera said when he was acquired on loan, he plays with high energy. It's almost a game where you have to find a way to maintain the right amount of energy and not get caught up in it. Jome. Hernandez. What a season he's had. Leaving off. Spin by Rita Zahir. Zahir. Right at Tyler Derrick. How's this for monster distribution? And from Francois away from Cerro. Nice tip by Hayes. It's a tad overzealous from RGV. Benitez. You've largely been pretty pleased by his play this year.
Been very impressed by him. Unfortunately, they've really had a lot of rotation on the back line. Now, Wilmer Cabrera is not going to be upset about that, but the players having to really maintain a level that has forced the manager to make some changes every now and then. Feels like they haven't even gotten into the conversation of a 90-minute performance. Probably somewhere closer to 60 or 70, which also gives you an idea of the fact that you haven't even tapped the height of your potential. And yet, as we stand right now on a draw, you're just 3 points off the playoff line. So that certainly bodes well for what could be in the future. The problem is time is wearing thin. Just 11 games to go coming into the night. These are the type of the ones where if it was the Louisville game, if it was the San Antonio game, it's certainly nice to win for morale, but nobody cares about feel-good situations right now. You want the points in your back pocket.
Jome taken out by Frame. Frame got a talking to, but it's a corner, not a free kick. Driven to the backside. Derrick got toppled. There's a push on the backside as well.
You're going to feel bad for Tyler Derrick in goal. How about Jose Torres? He takes a nice little knock just inside the top of the 6. Fabian Garcia certainly wouldn't be on my Christmas wish list of 50-50 battles. In the best of ways, of course, the Frenchman is a maniac when it comes to set pieces.
Away by Gomez. To be with RGV, who have a surprising, perhaps, possession advantage. It'd be easy to think that RGV on the road, not wanting to concede space Might have to suffer a little bit more. San Antonio felt coming in. That's the game that RGV wanted to play, going punch for punch. It's one San Antonio more than satisfied going mano a mano with. Frame. Into the Crocketeers. Came off of Torres. Cerro, the goal scorer, out to Frame. Out of North Carolina's Academy, grew up near Wake Forest. Galindrez thought he'd want to throw, not to be. Marcina trying to describe where that Select ball is supposed to go. Select is the official match ball supplier of the USL Championship. Many elite leagues throughout Europe. Visit www.us.select-sport.com. The latest Select products, specials, and more. Select, the player's choice. Appeal for a handball against Tainter. Francois with San Antonio. This is a three-game homestand for the side. They'll see a flailing Monterey Bay team over the weekend and then host Pittsburgh next week. Riverhounds right at the top of the Eastern Conference after that tremendous run in the Open Cup. Cerro. Darce. Cerro, Francois can be lightning quick. Angles in, slips ahead. Galindrez. Manley broke it down.
That's a good little interchange, though, between the two strikers up top and Cristiano Francois and Galindrez. Give credit to Francois, who's able to draw both Fabian Garcia and Mitchell Tainter over. The problem is the favor is not repaid. Galindrez had the back heel on, and Francois would have been in one-on-one situation with Jordan Farr. Excellent recovery on the backside, though. Carter Manley slipped over. Jordan Farr stepped up into the space, able to get a corner out of it, but a positive build from the visitors.
GV corner, that's to the top of the penalty area. That's off target. See the 210 Alliance and FTC to San Antonio hard at work. Bomb down to Derek. Of course, we're only just starting what's going to be a very busy week in the championship. Dev, we're starting to get toward that moving week time. We briefly touched on it pregame, but we're down to about 10, maybe 11 games for a couple of teams remaining. And you start to go, if you have more points between you and where you want to be, than games remaining, it's probably out of reach. If RGV wins tonight, they'd be just 1 point off El Paso for 8th. So still plenty of time to get this right.
Well, coming into it, Mike, we were discussing what we wanted to converse about at halftime, and we toyed with the idea of doing a playoff bracket. Basically, who we think's going to be in and who we think's going to be out. And to your point, there are so many games left, it's really hard to make that argument. But the other side of that would be is things are so tightly contested in the Western Conference this year. Certainly the deeper of the two, and I'm sure we'll get some flack from East Coast fans here in a second. But I would much rather start my push now. You leave yourself 4 or 5 games left. You've got 4 teams around you within 1 point. The nerves start to amp up a little bit. Your game gets still a bit tighter. Loosen things up now. Start to go chase those points so that as you get closer to the end of the campaign, you got a little more breathing room.
Pitchforked over for Oluwaseyi, but never got there. New Mexico's hanging right around that 8 spot as well. San Diego trying to ensure a home playoff game this year. They'll play on ESPN2 on Saturday night. Detroit and Las Vegas. Detroit hanging around the playoff picture. Hamtramck be the early game in our doubleheader. Chat about that, I would imagine, in a couple of minutes.
San Antonio just haven't really all gotten on the same page right now. We've seen some decent defending off the back line for Tainer, Garcia, and certainly Carter Manley, very active on that right-hand side. The 3 moving nicely together. Oluwaseyi and Patino haven't seen a lot of service. Credit to RGV defensively. But the real problem here is Jorge Hernandez, Rita Zuhir, and Ja'Cory Hayes are just off in la-la land. Hernandez has come a little bit higher, which is certainly a characteristic that they've displayed in previous matches. But Zuhir and Hayes can't find that 1-2 underneath. When one pinches off, they haven't been able to find link-up. It's really put them into a displacement that they're not normally used to. This team at home is usually always the aggressor.
Torres over the ball, 3-time winner of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, as it's known now. Won Liga MX 4 times. Had a decent looking ball at that. Jordan Farr pulls it down, last year's goalkeeper of the year in the championship. And the only guy not sweating right now.
Leave it to you to get us there.
Even Derek is perspiring. Oluwaseyi, enough to make any goalkeeper sweat a bit. Away from Cerro, Ritondale. Return to Cerro. Pumps the brakes effectively enough. Back from frame, the 20-year-old. No, Darce. In this system, those are hospital balls.
Yeah, this is, forget it. It's an immediate turnover, right?
It's got to be quicker.
Well, the other thing about it is one really versatile piece that you lose with the 8 changes for RGV is Juan David Cabezas, because whether you're playing him on the back line or within the midfield conversation, him dropping down in, he becomes the point man. To all of a sudden, you've got 2 at the top of the spear to allow yourself options moving forward. That's not the case right now. That's basically Ian Cerro operating by his lonesome. And even further, he's not popping up onto the front line from a pressure standpoint. So you lose that little step, but you also lose the attacking piece where the second one comes up through. Torres and Coronado staying deep. Now, they've been able to find the front 3, but intermittently. One wonders as the match continues on, because I promise you, Alan Marcina will make the tweaks. One would imagine that you're probably going to drop 1 underneath, get Zuhir a little bit higher, and then defensively, you've really got to start to chase the dragon, because you're going to get pinned deeper, you're going to give them more space, more time, and you do not want to do that for the reigning champions.
Tainter, chest down to Farr. What a story, Jordan Farr. He wasn't that far away from contemplating retirement. He was the top goalkeeper in NAIA at Corbin University, on to Indy 11, where he finally started to sneak into the 11, no pun intended, more consistently. End up in San Antonio out of an emergency basis. Look at this. Rita Zuhair scores! 3 goals in 2 games. The Canadian is on fire. 2-1 San Antonio.
You look at the way that this team has set themselves up this season. Certainly, they're still stout on the defensive front, but the numbers that they add going forward are pretty impressive. The one-on-one situations, the way that they play off of each other. Tani Oluwaseyi is grabbing the headlines, but do not sleep on Rita Zuhair. The man who hails from Montreal, he was on loan with the U23s, on loan now with San Antonio. 2 last week versus New Mexico United. Good footwork, excellent in tight-knit spaces, vision that helps him explode to the final third. All 3 arguments on full display to put his team out in front.
7th of the year for Rita Zuhair. San Antonio, a 2-1 lead. They've turned this whole thing around, and everyone gets a much-deserved moment of respite, except for us, because we're going to turn around and play a couple of games here on ESPN2 over the weekend. Dev, it starts with Detroit and Las Vegas. Trevor James is doing magic tricks to stay alive, but they need more here Saturday night.
They're 5 off the playoff pace right now in the Eastern Conference. Goal differential has really struggled with them because defensively, they haven't had the reciprocation on the attacking side of the ball. Your leading scorers, Ben Morris, 3. Dario Suarez, who came over in a trade on 3 goals as well. Abdoulaye Diop, everything just moves back. You lost Antoine Openo, and you lost your overall identity up top. Different argument for San Diego Loyal and New Mexico United. San Diego Loyal have a plethora of riches on the attacking front. This team could be a sneaky juggernaut, depending on the place that they get in the Western Conference. If they get a top 4, watch out. If not, we're having a different conversation. New Mexico United, Eric Quill has basically come in mid-season. He's retooled them a little bit. He's got momentum within the team, but their overall identity still lacking a little bit of grit. You wonder if they can get back to that on the weekend.
So that's a doubleheader of championship action here on ESPN2. So tune in, don't tune out for 4 hours straight of action. All the while, Cerro in the 11th, Patino in the 13th, Zuhair in the 30th. And RGV scored the opener, but it's possible they only served to prod the bear. Galindres after it. Oluwaseyi on the turn. Throw to come. Don't miss a minute of the action in 2023. Whether your club is on the road or at home, catch nearly every second of USL Championship action on ESPN+. It's the home of USL Championship, USL League One, La Liga, Bundesliga, UFC, and more. Sign up today, plus.espn.com. Ball brought down by Zuhair. 2 goals in the first half in a 3-0 win over New Mexico. Last time out for San Antonio. Hernandez got dumped, play on, away from Patino. Now they'll bring play back and a free kick.
I'll tell you, the half volley that he hit to start that overall submission that was New Mexico United, really impressive. Not only did he take it out of thin air, but took it off the instep. Hit it pretty clean, and then the free kick from about 22, 25 yards out, bending up over the top of the wall under the near post. Again, when he's at the top of his game, this kid can really play, Rita Zuhair. You wonder how long it's going to take before Club de Foot Montreal bring him back and give him a shot at the midfield.
He could be really impactful for them. Hernandez hangs this up for Oluwaseyi. And Derek siphons it off on the goal line.
That's the third one this half, by the way, that you've just thrown yourself into the conversation for being ahead of a child.
Yeah.
The dad jokes and puns are right on point.
Now that you have 3 children,
scary, but keep going.
Which of course happened while we were in Colorado Springs last week. Congratulations again. Do you tell 3 times as many dad jokes?
Well, you know, I just kind of sit there and try and look pretty in the corner, but that doesn't work either. You know, getting all dressed up with a suit and tie, you feel like maybe you could be a head turner. Not when there's 3 little kids in the room.
No.
If anything, they ruin the outfit, number 1. And number 2, they always manage to steal the thunder, but I'm happy to sit back and let them have that.
You're really wearing velvet around your children? That's
it's strange, you know? The Lord just hits differently at 12 o'clock at night.
It sure does. Corner for RGV to try and pull this level once more. Torres, good ball, far. Able to reach up and punch with one hand. Oluwaseyi starts the other way. Has Zuhair supporting. Torres broke it up. Coronado. Back into the corner, Francois. Works on Tainter, bouncing ball deflects into the waiting grasp of Farr.
That's excellent defending by Mitchell Tainter. I mean, certainly the ball still comes back across, but he doesn't panic whatsoever because Cristiano Francois out in open space would win that argument. If he's given the runway to chase down Mitchell Tainter and get down into the corner, he's going to win, but Tainter does a good job positionally of slowing him up, making the ball come to his feet, and then you make the attacker decide. And as the ball comes back across, just gets a touch on it. Jordan Farr, well collected.
Jome. Frame's going to get a handful of lessons in this game. Jome, that's going to go all the way through. The slide from Benitez apparently on point into Patino. Nothing doing, it's a goal kick.
It's a very, very good tackle. We just hailed Mitchell Tainter, the outside left center back for San Antonio. I tip the cap on this one to Gabriel Benitez because the ground that he's got to close, the deflection coming off No Darce, the diagonal that he's got to pick up on Patino to then go to ground, answer all of those questions and still be able to put an exclamation point on the tail end of it. Beautiful last-ditch defending.
Cerro bounced off of Hayes to maintain. Ritondale through the former U.S. international Torres. Come back to Kinsner. I can't say anything in this game has utterly surprised me. This has pretty much gone according to plan. Bring play back here.
I'd walk down to the sideline and recommend you say that to Wilma Cabrera and let me know how that goes.
The style of the game?
On the scoreline.
I was talking about the game itself, not the result.
It's starting to open up a little bit more than they would like, RGV. Yeah. You're starting to see the more impactful guys that we talked about earlier. Santiago Patino, Oluwaseyi, certainly Rita Zuhair. Remember, about 3 minutes prior to the goal, I said that if you start to come this deep and you pin yourself with Coronado and Torres, they're going to push Zuhair up. They're going to get him up next to Jorge Hernandez. And especially if Oluwaseyi and Patino, one of them drops down into the pocket, which we're seeing, all of a sudden it's a 3v2 argument in front of that back line. Torres and Coronado can only mark one player at a time. Space, for sure, you can pass back and forth, but when all 3 of those attacking players for San Antonio are available, watch out.
Francois chasing Farr. Gave it away to Ritondale. That got over Tainter. Room to work with here. Cristiano Francois, the Haitian international. In from frame. Francois bouncing for Galindres over Cerro. Dropped off by Hernandez. And a foul from No Darce. Oluwaseyi was the Big East Offensive Player of the Year, even if didn't have the explosive goal-scoring numbers that you might anticipate. There's a lot of programs, Dev, that play these wild, high-scoring games. Dr. Dave Mazur plays a really solid and beautiful brand football in Queens. Doesn't always mean a lot of 3-4 goal scoring nights. Forward from Hernandez, all sliced across by Zahir to Francois. Gave it back to Jome, although that's short-lived. Francois. Cerro. Frame. Out to the sideline. Dev, this one's for you, buddy. Represent your favorite USL Championship team as part of the USL Esports Hub launching next week. Join a Konami eFootball tournament on Xbox, PlayStation, or mobile by visiting rivalgames.com/play/USL to get started.
Be busy walking the cat.
Yeah.
Good ball.
Cerro opens it up. Ritondale. Galindres has yet to really have a pioneering touch in this game. This is better from RGV. Benitez leaves. Ritondale. Gomez trying to muster. Ball across, met by Farr. Torres. Francois getting some words shouted at him. Well, this San Antonio team, if you're not a San Antonio citizen or fan, you might say they play with a bit of nasty to them. You could argue if you're a San Antonio supporter, it would be edge or the mentality monster piece that they so heavily harp on. That checked up on the grass really awkwardly. Can Patino pull it back? He couldn't, and he, in the end, pulled back Benitez.
Alan Marcina was quick to say that this year, a lot of different personalities compared to last. That wasn't a negative thing, but when you return 12 players and you have 12 completely new, different personalities, both on the field and off, doesn't necessarily come with direct results. Now, that's not an argument you normally hear from the reigning champion. Certainly, they found success again, albeit in a different fashion. He said we just had to adapt, that we're very dangerous, and the difference is this team constantly needs more guidance. Last year, I could let them go by their lonesome. Not the same case this year. It's a different challenge for the coaching staff, but they're up for it.
Zuhir for Oluwaseyi. Frame into the picture, and a corner. Minutes without an RGV shot. That was the goal scored by Cerro in the 11th minute. Patino in the 13th and Rita Zuhir in the 30th. San Antonio ahead and looking for more. Derek. Gomez. Torres. First touch important here. It checks up and they have to turn this back. That's a foul won by Ian Cerro. He got got bailed out there. There was nothing on for RGV.
The defensive aggression seems interesting tonight for San Antonio FC. All due respect, just not at the quality that we've come to know and respect for the past couple of seasons. They've been caught out positionally in a lot of interesting areas. There's a real good point to it where Shannon Gomez is a little bit high and tucked in. Credit to Hernandez, who's able to retreat and help out defensively. You don't often see Shannon Gomez let someone get in behind.
Cerro on the first time. Straight off the training ground and straight at Jordan Farr. It's twice in this game that he's been quite scattershot from nearly the same spot. As we approach first half stoppage time, we did have a hydration break along the way. 3 goals. I guess we're going to save it all for after the excessive heat warning is finally over. 1 added minute. If you've been watching the World Cup, it feels like it's a minimum of 7. Carryover, I suppose, from the World Cup in Qatar. It's continued down under. Offside flag is up. Highlights and stats. Devin and I will chat a little bit about this San Antonio team at halftime, so make sure you stick around.
One wonders how much Wilma Cabrera is going to be willing to continue to concede some of the space on the inside. Now, to be fair, that started off quite impressively for RGV. Ian Cerro had some fun on the front line. They really haven't gotten a lot out of Galindres, but Cristiano Francois, Cole Frame, Rita Dali on that left-hand flank has come in. But as they've been pinned in deeper, they're having a bit more trouble tracking some of the runners. Now, the good news is, Mike, is they haven't gotten anything out of it. The bad news is that wave of attacks and the versatility of which Alan Marcina and San Antonio are willing to bring it, that argument's going to get a lot more interesting in the second half. Buckle up.
If this scoreline holds, San Antonio will be top of the West, and the numbers are good when they get multiple goals over the past year and a half. RGV opens the scoring in the 11th minute, but managed to hold that lead for just 2 short minutes. And it's San Antonio going into the break with the lead. More on their dominant run over the last year and a half coming up here at halftime, as well as a look at all 3 goals. Copa Tejas, a banger from Cerro, Patino, and Zuhir continue their hot scoring ways. San Antonio 2, RGV 1. This is the USL on ESPN. Scenic San Antonio on this Wednesday evening. Middle of August, it is hot, and so is this game. SAFC 2, RGV 1 at halftime. Welcome back into our thankfully air-conditioned booth. That's Devin Kerr, Mike Watts on hand and not sweating as well. You know, Dev, this San Antonio team has made a lot of their opponents sweat over the last 2 years. They grabbed every trophy that's available in the league last year and the Copa Tejas this year. They're in a similar vein of form. Somehow they had to try and do this all again.
Friendly reminder that they want to go back-to-back. And I say that because only one team has ever done that, Louisville City in 17 and 18. And only 2 teams have 2 titles, Orlando City the other. So let's go back to 2022. A defensive front that was impenetrable. They were that good. It was nearly impossible to break them down. They set all kinds of records, right? It was shutout records within a single season. Jordan Farr tied it as a goalkeeper on his own. You had Defender of the Year in Mitchell Tainer. You had Coach of the Year in Alan Marcina. And they managed to nick goals in the final third. 1-0 here, 2-1 there, squeezing out wins, comebacks, and they lift the trophy. Now fast forward to 2023. You lose Patino, Adeniran, and Collier. Now one of which is totally gone, Elliot Collier. But Adeniran only got 7 games. Santiago Patino only 2nd game back. And yet, you're looking at the best attacking unit in the USL Championship, a team that is versatile across the board. They spread the love. They've got 9s, 7s, 11s. They've got a midfield that has added Rita Zu here, and they've added goals, most importantly. Basically a half a goal better on the offensive front. Now, certainly that goals against average has come up by about a quarter. They've conceded a few more, but points per game is pretty close, and most importantly, the goal differential. That is what has allowed them to remain right near atop the Western Conference. And most importantly, Mike, the opportunity not just to chase down the West or the #1 overall seed in the USL Championship playoff time. They want one thing and one thing only, a 2nd star above the crest.
That's the plan for San Antonio here at Toyota Field. It's SAFC with a 2-1 advantage. And that's Devin getting in the middle of that bumper soccer game. First half highlights, maybe that game too, when we return here on ESPN2. Welcome back to San Antonio. That chase for another star continues. If this scoreline holds, top of the West. Look at the top of San Antonio here tonight. 2-1 at the intermission with Dev Mike. Let's take a look at the first half highlights, of which there are many. RGV with the opening goal in this game.
Coming in against Sacramento Republic. We saw it against Orange County, certainly against Louisville, and a few others that in order to find success against this compressed back three, you got to open things up or push them into a small spot and specifically get to the top of the 18, come lateral. Don't try and go high. Good ball into the backside, and the opening goal from there on the back post. The response, though, from San Antonio FC. It's a good ball in on the deflection, and all of a sudden, Santiago Patino, just 2 minutes later, adds it and gets it to 1-1 on the beautiful touch by Garcia. But the individual brilliance shine bright from Rita Zhu here. We saw him hit it outside the 18 twice, this time in tight-knit fashion. Just slips his way, skates the entire way to give his team the 2-1 lead before halftime.
And there's a look at your halftime stats. RGV holds the possession advantage for what it's worth, but San Antonio more chances, and of course now more goals. Patino in the 13th and Zuhir in the 30th. On to the second half we go here in San Antonio. Hot night, hot tempers. Two teams getting after it from the jump. San Antonio with the lead with 45 minutes to go. It's on the other side of the break. This is the USL Championship on ESPN. Ian Cerro, his first goal in the championship in the 11th minute. RGV, a very short-lived lead, stolen away by Santiago Patino in the 13th. Rita Zahir a goal as well. San Antonio ahead of Rio Grande Valley at halftime. One change made at the break for RGV. You're going to take out Robert Coronado, bring in Taylor Davila, former Cal Golden Bear who came up through the Galaxy Academy, 22-year-old from Sherman Oaks, California. And San Antonio is over the ball and ready to take us into the second half. They cannot clinch Copa Tejas. They can put themselves on the verge. SAFC 2, RGVFC 1. Washe eats a bit of grass right at the outset. San Antonio unbeaten when they lead at the half this year. 8 attempts so far, 7 wins and a draw. That's a giant pocket of space. Hernandez. That's a foul from Torres. In quite the dangerous position for San Antonio.
On the surface, it looks as if Taylor Davila is an attack-minded substitution, with the Coronado Torres panning, not necessarily panning out in the first half for Wilma Cabrera. Davila can join Sarah on that push up within the midfield. Great at the press, but right now they've got to figure out that lateral movement that we were talking about, that San Antonio started to find success in as the first half continued to close itself out. Rita Zahir did a really good job next to Jorge Hernandez as they started to gain possession higher up on the field. Notice they didn't play as direct and instead complemented each other in combination play as the half went on.
It could be Zahir with a thunderbolt. Hernandez quaffing this over the top. Hernandez steps over, so it is Zahir off the post. Tainter taps it home. But it is offside. And the celebration is short-lived. For last year's Defender of the Year, he's already bagged a couple of goals this season.
Well, certainly an impressive strike here from Rita Zahir, who, although this is certainly farther out, catches this on the instep, dips right in front of the goalkeeper. Unfortunately, Mitchell Tainter get caught ball watching here. Flat-footed as it came up over the top, and 100% in an offside position.
Zahir forward, Hernandez tries to return to Oluwaseyi, shoves off frame. San Antonio can be a bit of a blunt force object on set pieces in the best of ways. Fabian Garcia front and center of that discussion. 4 in the middle of your screen. There's the cross. Derek knocks it away. Second glance here. Comes into Jome. Hernandez. Jome gallops in. Feigns, fires the cross that Derek drives away. San Antonio at their absolute best seem to come at you in waves. It's almost impossible to avoid getting dragged into that surf.
He's putting it politely. That's certainly the most complimentary way to put it, at least when you're phrasing it for the opposition.
Ball lobbed over. There's Derek.
It's just one of those things where you constantly have to stay switched on. The game can open itself up in this fashion. The physical aspect of the game, feels like every single player you're matched up against is right around that 6 foot, built 190. They can go 100 miles an hour. The switch never stops, always stays tuned on. The press is there. Pressure in areas that you feel like maybe you can get comfortable on the ball, and instead it keeps coming and coming and coming, and they can be up 3-0 and it's going like that. Or of course, we've seen the historic comebacks as well, where it seems like there's this never say die attitude, although not certainly the same way that we saw it last season en route to the title, Mike. that spirit still lives from within.
Frame. A little help there from our referee tonight. Giant Boyko. Ritondale. Sarro. Torres. Chom. Zuhir. Oluwaseyi into the pocket. That is a foul from Nodarse. He's arguing, where was I supposed to go? Free kick, San Antonio.
He's in the wrong, but smart by Tani Oluwaseyi. I talked about his explosion in his space. Watch how he gets Nodarse to square his hips up here. Now, Nodarse does a good job sliding back over, but that little pivot right there, Oluwaseyi recognizes it. He sees him go flat. There's the cutback across. Now you're right. Nodarse has nowhere else to go except into the attacker. If we would have gotten there a half second sooner, or at least pivoted his hips open, helping push the attacker to the outside, then you can actually step into the tackle instead of the player.
You think it was scissors or a razor blade for Hernandez to cut those socks up just that way?
It's something that I don't get.
Yeah, I know.
It's not part of my stable.
You'd think surely on Frame. He already hit the post. Does have some scintillating options if he wants to get tricky with it. Derek is supremely dissatisfied in some capacity here. Jorge Hernandez did go for goal, lined it off the bottom of the wall. Well, Alan Marcina said there were some coaches that didn't really think Hernandez would fit in his system. He sort of scoffed / laughed it off with us, now in hindsight. Oh, that's going to fall for Hernandez. Hernandez got the shot away. It's bobbled, but maintained by Derek.
Especially when you get him very high, Jorge Hernandez, which San Antonio have done such a good job at doing so. We're gone to the days with LA Galaxy 2, where they kind of roamed a little bit more in this new role. It's given more freedom to operate underneath the two strikers.
Service will find Hernandez, who has to pirouette around. Trying to turn Ritondale up to Hayes. Oh, look at this. Allowed out by Gomez on the dummy. It's Hernandez now. Zuhir. Ooh. Gabby Benitez.
A player who has been at another level for San Antonio FC, and Rita Zuhir showing some of that beautiful footwork that can be. Welcome to the party. Taylor Davila, watch the sweeping leg. I'll tell you what, that's a foul. I don't know what game we're watching here. I mean, that is in from behind in general, yet alone the fact that that right foot comes in a sweeping nature, a scissor motion in from behind. That's a message sent and well received if you're Rita Zuhir. Be careful to poke the sleeping dragon.
It is a corner, however. Into the stands. Carter Manley position here. Had that huge game winner against Austin back in April of last year. I'll be quick to say Manly's their best 1v1 defender. Former first-round pick in Minnesota. Actually was at RGV for 2 seasons, 44 games. Looked out to Tainter at the halfway line. Ritondale plays an epic ball in behind. It had not been met by Tainter. Hoovers that up and sends it away.
Better though. Notice how when they come up over the top, don't immediately force the issue, Mike. They recognize the fact that, especially with the 2 strikers in Galindres and Cristiano Francois, if they can't get them in behind initially, you have to slow up play and allow guys like Ian Cerro, Ritondale to get up high and bring someone like Taylor Davila into the conversation within the midfield. You could use the width as an asset as opposed to just exploiting the space in behind.
Torres, ball flicks across the face of goal and out to Frame on the other side. Frame into the air, but out of play. For what it's worth, RGV 2 goals off set pieces last game as well. Hey, San Antonio FC is at the center of a new docuseries that's premiering on youtube.com/USL The Experience. Already they've gone into Pittsburgh and Colorado Springs. Now they tell the story of San Antonio's title-winning run and the experience for this community around gaining that first star. That new episode is available now. Great work by the USL video team. Great storytelling. Hear from the fans and the players. Excellent stuff. Ball through for Oluwaseyi, he never got there. You and I were here last year, Dev, at Toyota Field. This place was rocking. It's about 8,300. Hernandez. Derek dropped his cape on the way out.
Never got our churros, did we?
We did not.
Some incredible food.
I've heard other sports commentators talk about how great the churros are there, and we never got our shot.
I certainly made my rounds around the Riverwalk.
We did do that. Frame for Cerro, stabbed at by Garcia.
Turns out you don't get an extra clapping of the hands from the sideline if you make your laps more than once. Who knew? Early morning runs were great, though.
I don't doubt that. You did that, I did not. Zoo here, just 19 years old. Alan Marcy will be the first to say it's hard to become a full-time starter in MLS at that age. Started with Canada at the under-20 CONCACAF Championship. That's really how he got on the radar for Alan Marcina, the Canadian. We had a lengthy discussion about this week. The context of his name, its spelling and its pronunciation, which may have to be saved for a different medium.
Well, it's always funny because the manner in which a name not from, what do we say, English origin, United States origin?
That we have yet to anglicize or have already anglicized.
There you go. I knew you were going to know the correct way to depict that.
It's a way.
The way that it's broken down in modern lore is a little bit different. And in fact, it's Marcina. That's not the way that it's been said for quite some time, and they didn't want to chase it in the pronunciation guide, did they?
No, he's okay with it now.
I'm not.
Ball lays through for Oluwaseyi. Oh, with a finishing tackle into the board that sees no Darce. Off the field of play, but in some serious pain. You could hear that all the way from here. Well,
oh, I would just say it's the collision. Watch his foot just get stuck up underneath him right there. Right. The cleat in the knee right in front of the video board. You know who Frank Nodarse reminds me of? I'm going to give you a shout here, and I'm pretty sure you're going to know who it is. He reminds me of Ian Murphy, the center back from FC Cincinnati who came out of Duke. And Carter Manley, of course, is a Duke Blue Devil alumni. John Kerr Jr. and the splendid program in Division I college soccer in America. Nodarse bypassed that. The Cuban international who applied his trade with the Inter Miami organization with their 2 team in Fort Lauderdale CF from 2020 to 2021. Just approaching double-digit appearances at 13. He was on loan with the Charleston Battery back in 21, but has certainly made a case for himself over the past 2 seasons under Roma Cabrera.
Not the first time these two have come across each other tonight.
22 years of age, still trying to learn that body, figure out what it's going to feel like and be when he moves into the right positions. Up, no thank you.
All the while, Benitez just stops playing. He's grabbing his hand. The referee stops play as well. He was reaching up to his face. Another stoppage here, saying he may have caught an elbow. Meanwhile, Patino saying surely that's a penalty.
The one-on-one battle just inside, and so there's 2 schools of thought here, right? The arms away from the body. He's certainly got a hold of the shirt. Patino, though, as the space opens up, the embellishment starts. If you would have had the body lean in from Benitez, you've got a much better argument.
Patino this time. Kinsner makes the universal sign for a dive. Patino goes back down. And all of a sudden, this crowd is incensed.
Here's the real conversation, because if you're not going to call the first one, it is possible to have contact and just say, okay, we're going to let this play on this one. That's embellishment. There's certainly a little bit from Kinsner on the back shoulder, but nothing that would warrant a penalty in this situation. And credit to Patino, he recognizes as an experienced striker that you're going to take that little press off the back shoulder and lean forward into it. But as a referee, you've gone 2 in a row now. You have to make a statement to these players of what you are and what you are not willing to allow. The fact that he's going to let 2 instances in about 2 minutes go by and nobody's going to be penalized for it is an interesting one.
Dev, I'm interested, and you can, by the way, see at the bottom of the whistle that yellow and blue ribbon there. Our referee, his story now pretty well known, Sergei Boyko of Ukrainian descent, primarily a referee in MLS, where you get the benefit of VAR. Someone else is looking at that after the fact. That's where he spent the entire season. Now he's in a game tonight where he doesn't get that luxury. A little give and go. Now the foul that Cerro's drawn. And you add that to the 2 previous instances where the fans felt they didn't get the benefit of the whistle. And now the frustration really boiling over.
Well, here's the other thing for RGV is the emotional toll that this can take on you, because even though the decisions are going your way in theory, certainly that challenge right there, it disrupts the overall rhythm within a match. And this is something that San Antonio are very good at. They push you off your game. So it's a dead ball situation from 35 yards out. Promise you, they'd much rather have it back in the run of play.
Torres. It belonged to RGV on the throw-in. Rio Grande Valley can move a point away from the postseason tonight. 4 points off El Paso. San Antonio could jump to the top of the Western Conference if they maintain this margin to the finish line, jumping Sacramento along the way. And these 2 sides are going to meet again in really short order don't think either side will forget by the time we get to August 30th down in Edinburgh, Texas. The return is home and home. Francois too high for Galindres. Maybe short for this game. Changes incoming. That's a player we wish we had seen from the jump. What do you think of Cole Frame's debut at the championship level?
Very impressive. I mean, this is a young man who comes in, gets his first overall appearance. He's got to do it on the side against Ishjom. Mitchell Tainer can sometimes step. We didn't see it a lot tonight, but he can retain possession, be aggressive coming off of that back three, and recognize the fact that Santiago Patino and Oluwaseyi, the two strikers up top for San Antonio, he did well to sit back defensively and help them out, and was certainly involved on the attacking side.
So there was a change made at halftime that saw Coronado off and Davila on. Cabezas, Ruiz, and Frank Lopez come on. Mentioned Galindres might not have much time in this game. In reality, he's done. Ritondale, Frame, and Coronado come out of this game as well for RGV. San Antonio still all 5 available substitutions. Galindres, who was one of the best scorers in League One last year. Frank Lopez did spend a brief stint, 2 stints at San Antonio. 2018 and 2019, Dev, he was scoring like crazy. 27 goals in a 2-year span. But he's struggled to recapture that form, and he's found himself on the outside looking into the 18 a handful of games in a row before tonight. That's going to stay in play. And a heavy touch from the Darce. Hands it right back to Tainter. And a throw to come. Hey, catch the first ESPN2 USL doubleheader on Saturday night. Detroit City plays host to Las Vegas Lights. Then we'll head west to see San Diego Loyal welcome New Mexico United. Coverage for that begins 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2, with Detroit hosting Las Vegas, and then Devin and I will take you out to Southern California for Loyal and New Mexico. Josh and Ricky will have the early call of that one. I'm sure it'll be a joyous occasion for them in Detroit.
I'm sure that Trevor James is saying the same thing at the tail end of that, right? Trying to move their way up the Eastern Conference, make their way back into the playoff picture. Sitting on 24 points and 11th. Again, defensively still a very impressive team, although haven't found a way on the attacking front to really get things going.
You know, RGV missed the layup against Las Vegas just a couple of weeks ago. They felt that was as bad a performance as they've had under Wilmer Cabrera, maybe not just this year, but in his 5 seasons. Las Vegas is seemingly way out of the playoff race. So Detroit is going to try and avoid stepping on the same banana peel. Big diagonal to Patino, who scored in the 30th, took it out of the air, lines it at Derek. The offside whistle flag had already come. San Antonio's going to go to the bench. Justin Dillon off the bench. Had a game winner against Hartford, a game-tying goal late at Phoenix earlier this year. Replaces Patino, who now has scored in 2 games running since coming back to the team. And then Wilmer Cabrera Jr. is the 5th and final change for RGV. Of course, the son of the head coach, and drawing rave reviews around the league right now for his level of play. There he is. Replaces Cerro, the goal scorer for RGV. Hernandez. Manley. Not on the same wavelength, and now he's trying to catch up to Francois with blistering speed. Not nearly a good enough touch. San Antonio making their first substitution. They brought Justin Dillon in here. Dillon, 13 goals over the past 2 seasons, had 9 assists last year as well. Alan Marcina has this embarrassment of riches to work with, even though there's been so much turnover. Jaume. He goes flying out. San Antonio will play through. Dillon. Taken back by Torres. RGV cannot step on the ball in the attacking half in the last 10 minutes.
It just seems like they're so deep. And once they get compressed in that area, as they come direct out, they haven't been able to find a second or third ball. So the initial option is there, but the supporting cast, so many numbers, such a deep lying position, it's hard to get them into advanced spots.
Lopez had less time than he anticipated. If you're RGV, is that an unwillingness to expose yourself with 20 minutes remaining, or is that San Antonio being so overbearing?
No, it's certainly San Antonio being aggressive, but more importantly, I mentioned how the emotional side of things can get in the way with San Antonio and how the physical play gets in there. I would also say that the chemistry has been disrupted by Wilmer Cabrera and the subs that he's made so far. I don't disagree with the subs because the players coming on are certainly at the top of the argument to be regularly involved in the team sheet, but they're just lacking some of that overall rhythm to get up to the speed of play. And so on the right-hand flank, we've seen a lot of Frank Nodarce and him kind of being aggressive on the right because they're not really playing with a right-sided wingback right now. They've compressed Davila into the inside, so there's 4. Davila, Wilmer Cabrera Jr., Jose Torres, and Juan David Cabezas down underneath. But even as we look now, notice the right-hand flank. It's wide open. They just want this back 3 and Nodarce to come up off, try and give some support, and then let one of the midfielders rotate out to help continue the move going forward.
There's the aforementioned Davila. Davila, bouncing ball, back heel from Lopez, got turned away. Garcia in the mix, Torres! That's blocked. And now San Antonio the other direction. There's the speed of Tani Oluwaseyi! And Derek, well outside his penalty area, able to deflect that with the body. Hernandez tried to get by the stand-up defending of Juan David Cabezas. Wild stuff, end to end. Didn't have the numbers in the penalty area for Dillon that time around. Maybe poised for a change. PC appears poised to enter. As we pause for a hydration break, be a good time to relive the game that we've had to this point as well. San Antonio 2-1 up, but it was RGV, Cerro Acero off the bat.
And slowed things down. All of a sudden, 6 different players from RGV feeling like they can make an impact, but it did rest on the shoulders after the beautiful ball by Cristiano Francois, and Cerro slips in behind, and they're off and running 1-0. Playoff Patino, as he's become known and certainly loved in San Antonio lore, shows up a little bit early. 2 minutes later, Patino gets them back to 1-1, and then Ritazu here doing some pretty incredible things. Certainly the benefactor of a good bounce, but how quality of footwork to recover the shape overall within his body structure, bring it back across, get it on the favored foot, down into the bottom corner, and they've got their 2-1 lead.
And it's Zuhair that's back up and making his way off the field here. Somewhat prodigious talent in the Canadian youth system. And again, bit of time in the Moroccan youth national team and with Canada as well. Those fans don't even feel like they need hydration, by the way.
Interesting, by the way, just a little exchange there between Rida Zuhair and Alan Marcina, head coach from San Antonio. Zuhair had gone down. We saw PC take his bib off, put his jersey on, and come to the sideline. Zuhair was perplexed by it. He actually waved him off, said, no, I'm fine. And guess what? PC taking his seat back down. Great job by the camera operators picking all of that up and saying, no, I'm ready to go. 15 minutes left. Let me stay on.
So Zuhair, who's gotten 12 games with Montreal, will stay in here. This is 15th game for San Antonio, his 13th start of the campaign. Dillon, the dominant first touch, winning a corner to the applause here in San Antonio. If you can't watch the match, turn on SiriusXM FC 157. It's North America's only 24/7 source for engaging soccer talk, including USL All Access on Tuesday nights, typically at 7 Eastern. Plus hear live matches from the USL, MLS, EPL, and more. SiriusXM FC 157, the SXM app. Corner for San Antonio. Bring it up for the back post, and Darce will say, how about a corner from the other side now?
Saw that move quite a few times in 2022. Mitchell Tainer just rotating off the penalty mark, finding a pick, getting to the back post, redirection back across every now and then. Made the case for himself into the back of the net, your defender of the year in 2022.
Probably looking at the marking. I was looking at the fact gasoline is only $3.29 next to the stadium.
That's impressive.
I know.
We should drive there and get some.
We should. Corner for SAFC. Trying to double their lead here. Ball deflects off at Dillon. He's making the run back. Cabrera couldn't carry it. Instead, Gomez up the line. Zuhair navigating. Jaume Hernandez.
Taxi.
That ball's going to get some gas.
Churros.
Boy, when you hit those sweet, it is something.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I had a pregame meal at a stadium. I'll leave the teams out of it. Not only were there homemade churros, the churros had both a vanilla lemon-infused dipping sauce as well as a blueberry compote. I mean, who knew?
You can see Jaume signaling for a sub. His night's done. And he's off to get the blueberry compote.
This guy's been irreplaceable in the lineup recently for San Antonio FC. Jaume, who certainly was no stranger to the USL Championship or the Western Conference prior to his stint that has brought him to the title winners of 2022. Austin Bold in 2020, Colorado Springs prior.
Could argue he really made his name professionally at Nashville back in 2018 under Gary Smith. As they're knocking that immediate gesture. You know, this San Antonio team, almost impossible to keep the same 11 together because of injury, international duty. They have not caught, again, it's the case seemingly every year, a lot of breaks. Former Billiken Isaiah Parker, who's on loan from Dallas, set to enter the fray here and replace Ish Jaume. Second sub for San Antonio. Perhaps of equal importance, second moment that they've utilized.
Entering the match for SJ, number 24, Isaiah Parker.
Parker's 8th appearance, his 5th off the bench. Ruiz. Francois navigating, Ruiz. Ball deflects kindly to Cabrera. Tried to flick through once, Cabrera continues, Manley stood him up. It's easy work for Jordan Farr. Dev, do you think it's a two-horse race at the top of the Western Conference right now? San Antonio, if this holds, would be at level on games with 10 to go with Sacramento and just a point above them for that top seed. As Hernandez tries to bring that down. He finally did. It's Dillon crossing. An appeal for a handball, perhaps. Alas, out to touch.
We saw this in the first half from Gabriel Benitez. His ability to make that last-ditch effort coming all the way back across and extend his body, get on the end of it. Justin Dillon had a couple of runners on that back post available to him. But good defending, and to answer your question, it's a double-edged sword no matter how I answer it. And so here's why I say that. The first part is, when it comes to the argument of the #1 overall seed in the Western Conference, absolutely. It's San Antonio and Sac, and there's nobody else.
Ball from Gomez. Too high for Oluwaseyi.
When it comes to what could become playoff time, that's a very different conversation, because I would still say that the majority of that still lies with San Antonio, Sacramento Republic 1 and 2 in the West respectively. But I have seen some more recently out of teams like Phoenix Rising on the attacking front seems to watch out.
Cabrera just got steamrolled. He was trying to hold up play long enough to turn the corner, and Garcia's been booked.
We'll go back to that in a minute, but just watch how smart this is from Weber Cabrera Jr. He slows down to allow Ja'Cory Hayes to come over. If Ja'Cory Hayes comes deep in and comes underneath, he doesn't have the ability to play this ball in behind. Instead, he waits. Hayes tries to two-tone him, one on the right shoulder, one on the left. He splits it, and then Garcia lets his emotion gets the best of him. I would say that Cabrera slowing up certainly didn't hurt. Smart move by the youngster.
That's a coach's kid.
And just to put a bow on it, I like what I've seen out of Phoenix and San Diego. To me, those two teams outside of the top two in the West, at their best, could certainly hit postseason and make a nice little run. They got to get there first, though.
Let's see what RGV has drawn up for this. They wind it in front for Nodarse and booted away by Zahir. San Diego's 10 points off the pace in the West. Phoenix is all the way down in 7th, and Kevin Lambert just got sold. The news, supposing some semblance being broken on USL All Access yesterday.
The one that never aired.
To Real Salt Lake.
Yeah, it'll be broken tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Yep, people are going to be just shocked when they hear it. They've lost their longest tenured player now, but they've got two guys in the top 5 in the Golden Boot race right now. Manuel Arteaga scoring in our earlier ESPN2 game last month. Danny Trejo has caught fire here at the end of the season. Taste of the Phoenix of old. They're on 38 goals. That's the 4th best number in the West. Here's San Antonio. They are the highest scoring team in the league, and they're looking for number 50 on the year. That is great defending, right to the line.
He's had a very good night. Fragrant RC. Now, certainly 5 minutes to go. They'd love to be able to grab one back, but everything from a defensive standpoint that he's been matched up against on that right-hand side. They've been in a 4, they've been in a 3. They've asked him to grab some of this possession, be aggressive coming off the back line, break that initial line of confrontation. He's done well.
Cabrera got pulled down. Francois sent the service. San Antonio hold on to it. There's going to be a lot, I think, of stoppage time. Another hydration break. We only have 1 minute in the first half despite a hydration break and 3 goals. Had a number of dust-ups here in the second half. 5 minutes really wouldn't make anyone's eyes pop all that much. RGV starting to pick up the intensity here. Davila. Lopez turns on Garcia. Lopez across, seeking Francois. Well defended. Given a yellow card to Ja'Cory Hayes.
Entering the match for number 6, PC.
Can't take this back now. PC is definitely coming into the game. And that's it for Zuhair. His goal right now would stand the winner in the 30th minute. PC nearly came on about 10 minutes ago when Zuhair was on the ground injured. Goal number 7 for Zuhair this season. Ball over the top. Oluwaseyi on the run. He's brought it down. He's overtaken. And Juan David Cabezas nearly got too cute with it. He's bailed out.
Well, the manner in which we've seen Tani Oluwaseyi average a goal a game over his 14 appearances, 5 assists to boot, I might add, usually sees him with an explosion of quite impressive nature, 20, 30, even 40 yards to run into behind. Credit to RGV for not allowing that to happen this evening. Yeah, kept him quite quiet in that area of the field.
That's another free kick. RGV handed a chance here at another set piece. Ruiz, more instructions. Zuhair only now has just finished his full circle of the field. Header away at first and driven into the stands. 100 seconds remaining here in our Wednesday night USL on ESPN fixture. Got 2 coming up on the weekend. Join us at the Key, Keyworth, Detroit City, and Las Vegas Lights. Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern time. Then don't change that dial. San Diego hosting New Mexico from Torero Stadium in Southern California. Will kick off at or shortly after 9:30 Eastern time here on ESPN2. 2 games that have a ton of major implications for Detroit, trying to get back into the playoff picture. New Mexico trying to give a little space. San Diego trying to ensure a home game in the playoffs. Here's San Antonio looking for more, and that's sent over the line by Benitez. San Antonio could take all the sting out of this game with 1 goal right here. Hernandez over Tainter. Five added minutes. This game, that's an eternity.
Well, it seems it, and if RGV are going to complete this comeback, they're going to need something more impressive attacking-wise than what has been. Again, they've sort of lost the plot out on that right-hand side. There's been a lot of pressure on No Darcy, the way that they're operating. The idea is Kinsner with the ability to step up into the midfield. David Cabezas can drop back, he can go forward, but just look at the right-hand side. They've totally gotten away from any sort of presence, and so as the rotation comes through, you don't have that explosion of speed. Right on cue, commentator's curse. But you don't expect No Darcy to be the one to stretch the game over there for you. The second they made the change and they got away from Ritandale on the left, Ian Serra was in there, but specifically Cole Frame, everything has been about finding a way to get multiple numbers on the inside or finding Francois in very narrow fashion out on the left, become a bit one-dimensional and easier to defend.
Put in play by RGV. Cross to flex out over the line. Cabrera to throw with another 3.5 minutes remaining. Torres. Toro's in reverse. Ruiz hangs that over the top. Tainter allows it through. He's looking for the big body of Frank No Darcy.
Just tired legs here from the defender, who has put in quite the shift tonight, but on the recycled ball, not enough for him to change his body positioning and pivot to try and make a move on Mitchell Tainter. Again, really good argument here that we made coming into the game, and the representation that you're getting out of San Antonio. If they can complete this performance tonight, Mike, it's about the fact that, yeah, they concede a little bit more than what they did in 2022. They can score a little bit more too. So the early goal given, but the momentum just as easily taken away. They bag two, about a 20-minute span, and all of a sudden, feels like maybe it's been put on cruise control, and their place atop the Western Conference rightfully assumed, at least in their eyes.
Davila. Cabezas navigating, turns back, sends service to the backside, hit off the top of the net. Interestingly for RGV, they've now scored in 11 straight games against San Antonio, but they're on the verge of going 8 winless against their biggest rival. Haven't beaten them since 2021. And that seems far-fetched with about 100 seconds to go. Maybe they can hope to get a point. You mentioned it, Dev. Is it 9 of 11 down the stretch?
Yep.
Playoff teams
coming into the night. Teams that are currently above the playoff line.
Oluwaseyi maintains. Hernandez took it to the corner. Now he's broken through. Hernandez. There's Derek. And for RGV, no time like the present. They've squandered that chance. All the while, San Antonio goals number 48 and 49 in the league this year. Only 1 loss at home, 6 wins if they hold on to this, and 5 draws. They'll move to the top of the Western Conference, win their 4th in a row. And they'd be sitting only behind Pittsburgh on the overall league table. Away by PC. More precious time ticks away. That header will find Farr. He'll take the air out. Here's San Antonio's reached mission accomplished tonight. Marcina said, surely that's 5 minutes. San Antonio moves to the top of the Western Conference. They win this Copa Tejas fixture over RGV, 2-1, trailing early, but it's Patino and Zahir to the rescue. SAFC win this one, 2-1. We'll wrap it up on the other side of the break here in San Antonio. They're back to the top of the West. This is the USL on ESPN. Welcome back to the USL on ESPN. San Antonio knocks off Rio Grande Valley 2-1. And Texas, again, belongs to San Antonio on the cusp of a Copa Tejas title. With Devin, Mike, let's get you up on all the highlights. RGV opened the scoring in this game. They just couldn't hang on.
Scoring first, they are 29 games unbeaten. Their last loss was in September of 2021. If you can get out front, your RGV, usually they stay out in front. I said you had to get horizontal when you got compacted into a small space. They did that beautiful rotation. San Antonio giving up 8 goals in the first 15 minutes. That's most in the USL Championship. But guess what? They've also scored 12 in the first 15, which is most in the USL Championship. They are the mentality monsters. They get back to 1-1, playoff Patino, and they go right back to work. Rita Zuhir, quick footwork, agility, compressed into about 20 yards, doing it by his lonesome. 2-1 at halftime. They are now 27 games unbeaten, a stack which they themselves goes back to 2021. 26 wins, 1 draw. They get out in front after 45 minutes. They do not relinquish the lead, and they go atop the Western Conference.
And a chance for your final thoughts on this game as San Antonio pulls to the top of the West.
They show you once again, San Antonio, that they're fallible, but they're willing to accept that as part of their identity and also get back into the conversation attacking-wise. They didn't have that in them last season. They've got it now in 2023. They just said Sacramento Republic. We've been chasing you for a while. We are now right there. And guess what? Pittsburgh Riverhounds in the Eastern Conference, the #1 overall seed. San Antonio has 2 games in hand. You've been put on notice that the reigning champs are right behind you. Watch out.
Here they come. Meanwhile, you see New Mexico in 10th. You'll see them on ESPN2 on Saturday as they could jump RGV along the way. Detroit and Las Vegas kick off our doubleheader, 7:30 Eastern time right here on ESPN2, followed with San Diego hosting New Mexico United. A doubleheader on ESPN2 Saturday night. Till then, for our entire team in San Antonio and beyond, Devin Kerr alongside Mike Watts saying thanks for watching as San Antonio go top of the West, a 2-1 win over RGV.